I read Eros and Psyche, and this is why I think you should, or not, read it too. Hello and welcome to my first review. I am really happy to have you here, and I'm really thankful for you giving me the opportunity to show you a little bit of the world that is on my mind. So before starting, I must warn you y'all that this review will contain various spoilers about the book. So if you don't want to hear them, I recommend you go to my Instagram account where I'll be posting a shorter review without any spoilers, so you can find the link below. And without anything more to add, let's start with this. Eros and Psyche is a Greek mythology retelling that tells us the story, of course, about Psyche, a mortal princess of Mycenae. And we also have Eros, of course, the primordial god of desire. The thing here is that Eros is a primordial god, as I said. He was born before the earth was created. He was born along with Nyx, Uranus, Tartarus, and Gaia, the goddess of earth, Mother Earth. The plot starts when Psyche angers the goddess of beauty and love, Aphrodite, and Aphrodite sends his son, Eros, to put a curse on her, but it takes a really hard twist when Eros scratches himself with the poisoned arrow, making him fall in love with Psyche. But it does not end there. Since the curse of Aphrodite was falling in love with the first person that one sees and not ever see them again, Eros has to hide from Psyche in order to the curse not being completed. So now he can see Psyche, but Psyche cannot see Eros. The book is fully narrated from Psyche and Eros' perspective, which leads me to the first point, the narration. Okay, let's start. As I said, Eros is a primordial god. He was born before the time was even a thing, even existed. And of course, because of that, he has a really complicated form of speaking. He uses words that many mortals, even back then and even now, we do not know. He talks with poetry. He talks like in a really, really complicated way. On the other hand, Psyche, it's a mortal princess. And even though he was raised really, really well to be super, super wise and to be intelligent and to be clever, of course, a mortal princess cannot possibly reach the god's intelligence or knowledge. So she speaks like any other mortal, because we need to add that she was 18 when she met Eros. I think this is really, really well represented in the book. When Eros is narrating, the whole book takes another sort of vibe. You can hear that it's someone Asian talking, and with Psyche talks, it's just Psyche. That it's still beautiful, but it's not the same, you know? I think it's a really, really good representation of the characters. And I wish everything about these characters and this interpretation and representation was good, but it was not. And this leads to the pacing. The book goes really, really quickly, and it does not allow you to really understand what's happening. Many times I had to wait, where are we? Who's talking with Psyche? Who's talking with Eros? So I think that's a really bad point with the book. Again, it's totally compensated with this subtle change in the narration, but it's still like it does not allow you to really connect with the characters at first. So no, it's really, really slow. I didn't like that about the book. But of course, again, we have different things. And even if the pacing was really, really quick, there's something that I loved here. And it was the role of women in the ancient Greece. So from the start we see Psyche's struggles, and it's because her parents expected a boy because of a prophecy that the oracle of Delphi told them, and I quote, "They bestowed the oracle's prophecy upon my father. Your child will conquer a monster feared by the gods themselves. His son would be a killer, a hero, and people will come from all across Greece to pay homage to him. What a pity I was no son." So I really love this part of the book. I think it really plays really good with what women were expected to do. So, she was raised for being a hero. Her parents did not care that she was a girl. She will fulfill this prophecy because the Oracle of Delphi would never be wrong. Because it was created by Apollo, but that's another story anyway. But people in the kingdom started to leave because they were fearing, they were afraid that she would end up not being such a good hero. And another part that really interprets really good the role of this woman, it's when we meet Helen of Sparta and Penelope, Queen of Ithaca. When we meet Helen of Sparta, the first thing we're told about her is that she's grieving and she's scared and she's crying because she does not want to be married to Melanas. She does not want to be married to Melanas because she's scared. She does not know her fiancé. So she does not know if it will become someone aggressive towards her, towards their heritage, towards their future daughters and sons. And that's when Psyche realizes she is going to be married soon. And she develops that same fear. Because of course, she's a princess. She needs to protect her kingdom. She's not gonna be married for love. Or that is what she thinks. So of course, she is totally scared, which plays a really important role. And I wish their representation was perfect, but it was not. And this is when I open my part that it really pissed me the fuck up. And it's the bad interpretation of historical characters. Let's start with Penelope. Penelope is presented, it's introduced as the sister of Helen of Sparta. She was not her sister, she was her cousin. And this is a change that does not make sense at all. I thought that they would introduce something like, oh, maybe they're related because of this part of the plot. No, it's just a change that happens just because. Which, okay, it really kind of like pissed me off, but I could live with that. The problem is that it does not stop there. In the really first scene where she appears, she says, "Do you think I wanted to marry Odysseus and move to Ithaca?" Yes, you wanted to. That's something so weird. Why would you say that? And the thing is that in every single interpretation of Penelope and Odysseus, in the Odyssey by Homer, in the Iliad by Homer, they're in love. And that's their thing. So why would you change that just in order to prove a point? Like, I know that the author was trying to say, okay, women do not have a voice, do not have a tell on this. But why do it with Penelope? Penelope and Odysseus are one of the healthiest relationships in all Greek mythology. Why would you ruin that? And talking about Odysseus, you can tell how angry I am about this. Odysseus is presented as a gold-starved king that wanted to go to war, that was really excited to go to war. No, he was not. During the Odyssey, he literally fakes madness so he can stay in his home, in his kingdom, with Penelope and his newborn son Telemachus. So why would you represent him as he wants to go to war and win gold to waste on Ithaca? But now that we're talking about characters, we can also add Hecate, Demeter, and Persephone. Hecate is my favorite goddess. I'm so happy that she's there. Hecate is a titan goddess. She was one of the only titans that sided with Zeus during the Titanomachy. She was one of the only titans that sided with Zeus during the Titanomachy. Zeus rewarded her with giving her power over the three realms: the sky, the ground, and the underworld. which makes her one of the most powerful Greek creatures of all time. And that's why she appears in this book. Eros, after receiving the curse by accident, thinks about going to her for asking her for her help or favor, because Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft, and she is one of the only goddesses that actually practices witchcraft aside from her divine powers. So she thinks of going to her, but he thinks that she might ask for a really, really high price, so he does not. But then when things go really, really wrong, that's why you should always go to Hecate. When things go really, really wrong, he actually decides to go to her. And she helps her because she is the fucking best. But the thing is, Hecate is presented as a really, really helpful person, which is true. That's her nature. She's a mothering figure for many people, for many mortals, and she's always trying to please them. The thing is that her kindness has a limit, and Eros crosses it. So, Hecate, Eros, and Demeter, we're gonna talk about that later, are in a trial with other gods in order to give Psyche apotheosis, a spell that will make her a goddess. The thing here is that they do not win the trial. Psyche is to be remaining a mortal. And the thing is that Eros starts begging Hecate for help, and she gives it to him. She practices apotheosis on Psyche without Zeus's permission, which is, for starters, that's like basic Greek mythology. Someone does not can become a god or a goddess without Zeus's permission. That's why he is the king of gods. He's supposed to be in charge. But aside from that, Hecate would never do that. She values being helpful, but she also values order. So I think that's so fucking that's so out of character. One of the closest friends of Hecate is Demeter. So as many of us know, Demeter lost her daughter to Hades, the king of the underworld, and he kidnaps her. They're one of my favorite couples. I can't say anything really, but he kidnapped her, and she decided to stay in the underworld as the queen. But they have a deal. She will stay 6 months in the ground, in the earth, and 6 months in the underworld, ruling along her husband. So, my problem with this two is that, first of all, during the whole book, they try to denigrate Hades, like saying, yeah, we know who's actually in charge of the underworld. When the soldiers go to war, they praise and they pray to Persephone and not Hades, because she is the real queen of the underworld. No? In every single myth, again, going to history, going to actual facts about Greek mythology, is that in every single myth, they are presented as equals, both in their personal relationship and their governance state. They are equals. The thing is that it's stated that Persephone hates Demeter, her mother, that looked for her for like centuries and tries to rescue her from the underworld where she was kidnapped. Demeter was really, really overprotective over Persephone, that's true. But she was never actually mean to her. She was always super loving to her. So it does not make sense that Persephone hates her. Even more if she is a goddess of the underworld and she is so wise as they want to put it in this book. They want to present her as more than an Olympian, as more than Hades. So why do you paint her so immature about her mother? Okay, Demeter. To be honest, I don't have any complaint about Demeter. It's more like her relationship with Persephone. Like, why is it so damaged? Like, it does not make sense. But of course, I want to add, though, that not every deity is bad or neutrally represented in this book. And that's when I need to add Aphrodite, Zephyrus, and Eris. Let's start with Zephyrus. Zephyrus is the god and the representation of the west wind, and many of you may know him because of the myth of Apollo and Hyacinthus. I love that myth, and when I saw that he was in the book, I was so pissed. And I was even more pissed when he had that chill, cool dude attitude, like I don't give a fuck about anything. But the only time where he is actually concerned about something is when he goes to Eros and it's crying and says that the god Apollo had killed his beloved Hyacinthus. I'm gonna be really honest here, and is that while I was doing some research for this video, I found that in many versions of the myths, he actually did not kill Hyacinthus. It was Apollo, and in many interpretations, of course, of people who actually like paid homage to Zephyrus, they said that Apollo was the one who killed him. So there's not like a canon version of it, but of course the most popular amongst Greek mythology lovers or Hellenic polytheists right now, it's the one where he is the one to kill Zephyrus. So I'll go, for this book, I'll go with the version where Zephyrus is the victim here. And I can work with that by the simple fact that his character is actually so easy to love. Like, he is one of the oldest Eros' friend, but also he becomes Psyche's left hand when Aphrodite puts her through different tasks that she needs to go through to go back to Eros. And I know I'm not giving any like actual context about the plot, but I'm trying to keep it like low-key about how the book goes. So I'm sorry about that. Sorry if it does not make sense. But if you already read the book, I think you're understanding. As another deity, we also have Eris, the contraside of Eros. They are twins, twin siblings. Yeah, because Eris is a girl. So they are twins, and they are totally opposites. Eris is the goddess. It's the goddess of discord and strife, while Eros, as we know, is the god of desire and love. So, while doing some research again, I found out that they are not actually like blood related. They are just represented during different myths as totally opposites. While Eris keeps the world apart, Eros brings it together. I think it was a really good idea to have them as siblings, and it was a really interesting relationship. Well, when the world was created was Gaia. When Gaia created the whole world, Eris wanted to marry Eros and copulate with him, you know, Greek mythology. During this, Eros said no thank you, and Eris did not talk to him for centuries. But in the end, when Aphrodite had him locked in, she was the one that freed her brother, which I think was really lovely. Like, she is the goddess of discord, and you know, she's born to be a whole mess, to make a whole mess of the world. And she like says that maybe sometimes the world just needs a god to go and make a mess. And she is that mess. But also, she says that she wants to be closer to her brother because they were together before even the earth of the time was a thing, and they will be together after the earth of the time stop being a thing. So I loved the relationship. We are gonna follow with Eros's family tree, and we are gonna talk about his mother, Aphrodite. And this is one thing about Greek mythology, and of course it has a lot of versions of different myths because it was normally not written down. It was just like told mouth to mouth from generation to generation. So Aphrodite is sometimes represented as Eros' mother, and sometimes they are just like siblings or they are just somehow related. And this book addresses that, and I am so happy with it. So, Eros, as I said, is a primordial god, which existed before Gaia created the earth. And Aphrodite was born after Kronos cut his father's testicles. And basically, she was born from Uranus' sperma into the sea. So, Zeus told Eros that he would need to take care of Aphrodite. And that's what happens in this book. That's what happens. And Aphrodite says, "You will call me mother now." And during the whole book, Eros refers to Aphrodite as his mother, and Aphrodite refers to Eros as her son, which I think it was a really good addressing of this idea. Like, it approaches us so good that they are just like, they are not actually related, but that's where Greek mythology says. So they're just going with it, and can't explain how much I loved it. And also, her relationship with Psyche, it's not better. She was angry at her. She was really, really jealous because mortal beings were saying that she was prettier than Aphrodite herself. And of course, the goddess of love will never allow that. Like, so that's when she sends Eros to curse Psyche, and we know what happens. And she was really, really mad with Eros for breaking his promise, but not only breaking his promise, but also lying to him. So she decides to go against Psyche, which is weird, but you know what? It's Greek mythology. Go with it. But her character becomes the antagonist of the whole book. And I really like this side of Aphrodite, where she's like a bad bitch that it's pretty and everything. And that's why I think that her ending feels forced. The thing is, in the very end, she needs to leave Eros and Psyche alone, since now Psyche is a goddess, and Psyche approaches Aphrodite to ask her, "Why did you do all this? Why did you bother with everything?" And Aphrodite answers, I quote, with, "He gets to keep you," referring to Eros. Which, for me at least, does not make any sense. Aphrodite is often represented as a really, really jealous goddess. She always shows her rage against women. And why would you change that if does not mean anything, does not change anything in the plot? Ares, the god of war, from the start they say, oh yeah, they are in love, and it's corresponded. Plus she has Hermes, the god of the lies, the messenger. So why are you presenting her like a loveless goddess? She is the goddess of love. And what Psyche says is that he provokes desire in persons and people, and she can have anyone who she desires, but that's not love at the end of the day. So since it's not love, she feels lonely. And I mean, I'm totally okay with that, but it feels so rushed and so out of nowhere that I think it's wrong. If you want to give a really, really deep motive to your villain, you might as well do it right. And that's the thing, it just feels really, really rushed. It feels forced, and I don't know if the author Luna has like any other, like a sequel of this book from Aphrodite's part or anything, but it feels so wrong. We already gave the chance to Eros' family tree, so now we might as well give the chance to Psyche's family, and we have Iphigenia. She is the cousin of Psyche, which is presented as her best friend since they were little. They met when they went to Helen's wedding when they were both 12 years old. And now they're older, and they did not see each other until Psyche was married to Eros. So imagine her surprise, Iphigenia's surprise, when Psyche is not a hero like she was trained to be by Atlanta, the iconic Greek mythology hero. She was now a housewife, which was really surprising for Iphigenia, but she said like, okay. And Imagine Psyche's surprise when Iphigenia was not a priestess of Artemis like she was planning. And when they were little, they fantasized about their future and how would it be. Like, they were imagining it just as they wanted it to be. And it was not exactly like that. Iphigenia was to marry Achilles.
Lucy, stop it! Denial is a river in Egypt. Your husband is gay.
She was to marry Achilles. And at first, like when they met Achilles a few years ago, like when they were 15 or so, they both didn't like Achilles. But turns out that now they were to be married, and Iphigenia, even though she didn't love Achilles, she was actually excited to be married because he is a really, really great hero. So of course, they said like 2 + 2 makes 4. So they both changed a lot during the whole plot of the book, even though it was not exactly represented in the book, because we grew up with Psyche and we barely see Iphigenia, so they both changed, and I like that in the end they remain friends. They go through their differences and they solved it out, and now they remain friends, which I think is a really, really good lesson to teach. It does not matter if you are not exactly the person that you wanted to be when you were little, as long as you remained the same person in your soul and they are still friends. And I love that. To be honest, their relationship is so pure, it's so cool. We finished with the plot, but there's only one thing I want to add to this video, and it's the idea of death. I loved how Eros addressed this idea, because it was not addressed by Psyche, who was immortal for 90%, no, 99.9% of the book. She was immortal, but she did not think about that. And that's when I started to really, really love this book. And it's that Eros did not really care about humanity until he started to wander around the world and, meeting mortals and watching them fall in love and exist and everything. For them, for gods, the time is different that for us mortals. Of course, for what for us would be a lifetime, for them it's a normal evening. So of course, watching a god actually question the idea of death and see it as a privilege during most of the book was really shocking, and I loved it. And I'm gonna quote again part of the book, which is my favorite. One of my favorites. A human being in its lifetime might be a child, a warrior, a parent, a healer, a sage, and finally a corpse. A god could only be a god, unchanging, fulfilling its allowed functions as surely as the planet circles the sun. Eros got really philosophical there. And it's that, of course, we mortals see the immortality as something to achieve, or at least most of us, I hope. Many people has really, really look forward to live forever. Watching a god actually question the idea of being dead and seeing it again as a privilege that us mortals have was really, really mind-changing for me, like mind-blowing. And I really liked it. And also the fact that he questions his own role in the universe, because he finds out that mortals or beings do not need his arrows, to fall in love or desire each other. So he starts to wonder, what is my place here? If they do not need me, what is my place here? And I don't like that in the end that's not actually solved and he is fine with just being Psyche's husband. But it's dumb, like the idea of a primordial god, someone who knows more than us mortals can know about the universe, things that we can only imagine, questioning his existence, his purpose on life. I think it was beautiful, and it was beautifully done with Eros. And with that, I finished my review. For me, I know that I said a lot of bad things and I got like really, really pissed in the bad things. So normal people would give this book a 3 out of 5. but I fell in love while reading it. It has like 300 and something, and I finished it in 2 days. So I think I would give this book a 4 out of 5. So it has 4 stars. And again, thank you for watching this. And if you like this review, please subscribe, leave a like below. And also, if you read this book already, give me your comments. Maybe you noticed something that I didn't. Thank you for watching.